Hello everyone, Michael here. Now, this is my first video that I actually put more than 5 minutes of effort in, so I hope it's in any way useful to you. Since I recently upgraded from my 2700k to an i7-5820k, I thought, why not make a video about comparing these two? Now I know this is a very specific video only meant for people who are basically doing the same or a similar upgrade from, for example, from a 2600k or to a 6800k, or if you're just curious. Alright, enough of the premise, let's get right into it. I'm going to compare these two rigs against each other. My old rig, which has a Z77 ASRock Extreme 4 motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR3 1333 RAM, and of course the i7-2700k overclocked to 4.6 GHz. And while I could have pushed it to or past 5 GHz, everything above the aforementioned overclock would overpower my H110i. It will compare to my new setup, an ASUS X99A motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR4 3000 RAM, and obviously the i7-5820k. The remaining specs are a Sapphire R9 390 at stock speeds, a Cooler Master G650M, a Corsair H110 GTX for CPU cooling, and the Corsair 600C as a case. All gaming benchmarks are going to be at 1440p max settings, or as shown on the graphs later on. The 5820k will be tested at stock and at 4.3 GHz. The games tested are GTA 5, Hitman 2016 in both modes, DX11 and 12, Tomb Raider 2013, Rainbow Six Siege, CSGO, and Overwatch. For a synthetic benchmark, Cinebench will be used. I will also measure the power draw and temperature of all three configurations. Are you bored yet? Here we go. Now, with the more CPU intensive GTA 5, an increase in performance was to be expected. But what surprised me is the increase in minimal frame rates from a mere 6 FPS, and yes, I've done the test multiple times and it was about the same every time, to 33 FPS on stock and very respectable 50 FPS on the overclocked config. Next up is Hitman. To speed things up a bit, I've included the X12 results as well, and as you can see, there are only marginal increases between the three setups. And while DX12 brings a slight performance boost on average, the minimal frame rates are even worse than on 11. Moving on to Tomb Raider, and we see similar behavior to Hitman, only very slight performance increase on average, which might very well be within the margin of error, and while the 5820k has lower minimum FPS than the 2700k at stock speeds, it will beat it when overclocked. With Rainbow Six Siege, we see a jump from 50 FPS minimum to a very acceptable 60 FPS, and that's about all I can say to this. And for the last two, Counter-Strike, Global Offensive and Overwatch. While these two have no built-in benchmark, I did a run through the map test, both of which you can see sped up right now. I've repeated each 3 times and recorded the frames per second using Frap's built-in benchmark mode. The results are what you probably expected. There's almost no difference as both of these titles are not very demanding on the CPU. And last but not least, here are the Cinebench scores, the power draw and the temperatures of all three setups. For the LOLs, I added in the power draw from an unrealistically loaded system, meaning IDA 64 on the CPU and Unigine Heaven on the GPU. Well, that about wraps this video up. I hope you enjoyed this video. And although my next video is far off due to budget reasons, it will probably be about the upcoming Vega cards of AMD, as this is my next planned upgrade. But if you like, you can watch me on Twitch, link is in the video description, while I'm being cringeworthy while awkwardly switching between the German and English language, because no one is listening anyway. So thanks for watching and bye.